Hello YouTube, it's me again, Veteran Mountain Man, and today I'm coming to you with the first 3 amendments of the U.S. Constitution, just as promised. So, what are they? What do they mean? And what do they mean to an old guy like me as well, because I'm an old-blooded veteran? And why are they relevant today? So the First Amendment is the most important, obviously, right? Because they made it first. Receives a lot of coverage in the news. However, you rarely hear it said aloud in its entirety. You usually hear it constitutes freedom of the press or freedom of speech, and a lot of that is because they're trying to obfuscate the true meaning of it. So here it is in its entirety, directly quoted. Quote, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and petition the government for redress of grievances. End quote. That is the actual First Amendment. So, it sounds really simple, but not really in today's age. We've seen attacks on the First Amendment already in today's age, primarily by the last administration when he tried to force the Little Sisters of Charity to pay for birth control, as it was called, which was really pay for abortion. Even though the Little Sisters of Charity are a all-female Catholic nun order, and had taken vows of chastity, and most of them were in their 60s. Yet their religious freedom was being impinged because they did not believe in abortion and were being forced to pay for abortion. Now, much of this you hear talked about specifically by the ACLU of things violating First Amendment free speech and things violating human rights. Well, these human rights are not actually enshrined in the Constitution. There are other rights enshrined in the Constitution. And the one we just discussed is the first one. Now, the second one, which is also something you hear about in the news, but you hear about it specifically in opposition to gun control and what they call gun reform. Let's look at the original text as it was written. Quote, a well-regulated militia being essential to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. End quote. Now, many would say you need a militia to bear arms. And this is a common argument used by certain groups, specifically those pushing for gun control. But the militia is made up of the people. And if people are not allowed to own weapons, then they cannot form a militia in defense of their nation and in defense of their government. Now, those who have fallen into becoming felons, which are hard criminals usually, not always, but usually, and those who have been forcibly hospitalized for the protection of themselves and others, are currently restricted from bearing arms. And this is kind of important for public safety, realistically, because we found a very high recidivism rate in violent crime here in the United States, and if we give them access to weaponry, they will just commit more violent crime. As for people who have been forcibly hospitalized against their will, it actually requires a judge's order to do that in this day and age. The idea that you can just hospitalize someone for any reason is felonious. You can't. You have to get a judge to rule that the person is clinically dangerous to themselves and others. And it is very hard to get that ruling. So there are very few people who fall into the hospitalization category. Now, there are some other methods that have been attempted to be used, which have been forced back now, which included a push by President Obama to outlaw people who were on Social Security from bearing arms because they were not capable of taking care of their own financial matters. This included veterans who were on fixed income and disability payments. This was actually a travesty under the Second Amendment. But let's get to the Third Amendment here, and this is one that we don't really have to worry about much today. It states that the billeting of soldiers in a private citizen's home cannot be done without the consent of the property's owner. Well, what is billeting? Well, billeting basically means putting them there to live there. This was a common practice amongst the British Army and the British Marine Corps, was that they would move into a small city or town, and the better homeowners would be forced to put up the ensigns and the lieutenants and the captains and the colonels, and then the actual soldiers, usually sergeant, corporal, and below, would live in their tents outside of the city or in one of the common areas. Well, they made that actually illegal here in the United States without the consent of the owner, because under British law, if you were presented a right of the crown, you had to billet the soldier. Period. End of story. Now, this section of the Bill of Rights was actually ignored during the Civil War by Union troops. Union troops actually forced their way into Southern homes for billeting, specifically in some instances ejecting the homeowners. And so that caused a lot of divisiveness because of that. Anyhow, these are the first three amendments. Now, I know I won't be popular for saying this. The Second Amendment protects the others. And it's the only way you can remain sovereign in your person and in defense of your rights against either a tyrannical government or an individual wishing you harm. So if we strip the Second Amendment from the U.S. Constitution, we will irrevocably damage ourselves. And it will only be a matter of time before the first, the third, and the fourth are removed as well. Well, thank you once again for joining me. Please don't forget you can see the Constitution at constitutionus.com. You can see digital scans of the original documents at the National Archives. I'm including a link below. And you can also purchase a copy of the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and all the amendments for $3 in ebook format from Amazon.com. I am also including my minds.com/Veteran Mountain Man link below. Please feel free to contact me there, and we can have discourse about this or anything else you choose. Thank you all, and have a good day.